Have you ever wondered how intricate metal objects are made? Today, we're cracking open the secret behind many of the metallic items we encounter in our daily lives. It's a process that's as fascinating as it is complex: sandcasting. This age-old technique is responsible for creating the detailed and durable metal objects we often take for granted. So buckle up as we dive into the world of sandcasting. In this video, we will unravel the mystery of sandcasting, the process behind many of the metal objects we use every day. Sandcasting, a term you might not be familiar with, plays a crucial role in our lives. So what exactly is sandcasting? It's a process where a molten metal is poured into a mold made from sand to create a desired shape. Imagine a child making sandcastles at the beach. But instead of using wet sand in a bucket, we're using molten metal in a specially designed mold. This technique has been around for centuries, dating back to ancient civilizations. The Chinese, Greeks, and Egyptians all used sandcasting to create tools, jewelry, and even statues. The beauty of sandcasting is in its simplicity and versatility. It allows for the creation of intricate designs with a material as commonplace as sand. Sandcasting has evolved over time, but its core principles remain the same, proving its enduring relevance in the realm of metalwork. Now that we know what sandcasting is, it's time to understand how it works. The process of sandcasting, while intricate, can be broken down into manageable steps. It all begins with an idea and a pattern. The pattern is a replica of the object to be cast, typically made from wood, metal, or plastic. This is the blueprint, the starting point, the very genesis of your sandcast creation. Once the pattern is ready, it's time to create the mold. The mold is a two-part structure, comprising of the cope, which is the top half, and the drag, the bottom half. The pattern is placed inside the drag and tightly packed with a special type of sand known as green sand. This sand is not actually green, but gets its name from its damp, clay-like consistency. Creating the perfect mold is a craft in itself. The green sand must be packed just right, not too loose and not too tight. It's a delicate balance that requires a skilled hand and a keen eye. Once the sand is packed around the pattern, the cope is placed on top and filled with more green sand. Voila! You have your sand mold. But we're not done just yet. The mold needs to be prepared for the molten metal. This involves creating a pathway, or a sprue, where the molten metal will be poured in, and an exit pathway, or a riser, where the gases can escape. This is crucial to prevent any air bubbles or voids in the final casting. Once the sprue and riser are created, the mold is carefully separated and the pattern is removed, leaving behind a perfect impression. The two halves of the mold are then put back together, ready for the molten metal. It's a laborious process, but the satisfaction of seeing your creation take shape is truly unparalleled. With the mold ready, we are set to proceed to the next exciting steps. The sand mold is now ready for the main event. With the sand mold prepared, we now turn to the heart of the sandcasting process, the casting of the metal itself. This stage involves the melting and pouring of the metal, which will transform into the final product in the mold's cavity. Melting the metal is a delicate task. It requires a specific type of furnace, one that can reach the high temperatures necessary to melt the metal. For example, to melt aluminum, the furnace must reach temperatures of around 1,200 degrees Celsius. That's hotter than the surface of Venus. Once the metal is in a liquid state, it's time to pour it into the mold. This must be done carefully to avoid any splashes or spills. The liquid metal is poured into the sprue, the channel we made earlier, which guides the metal to the mold's cavity. This is where the magic happens, as the liquid metal takes the shape of the cavity, forming the object we want to create. But the process doesn't stop there. The next step is to let the metal cool down. Cooling is a critical stage in sandcasting. It's during this period that the metal solidifies and takes its final form. The cooling process can take anywhere from a few minutes to several hours, depending on the type and size of the metal. As the metal cools, it contracts. This contraction can cause the shape of the object to change slightly, which is something to keep in mind when designing the mold. It's also important not to rush the cooling process. If the metal is removed from the mold too soon, it could still be soft and deformed. Patience is key in sandcasting. By allowing the metal to cool and solidify properly, we ensure the creation of a strong, durable object. Once cooled, we are almost at the end of our process. We'll discuss the final steps in the next part of the series, so stay tuned as we continue to uncover the fascinating world of sand casting. With the metal cooled down, it is time to reveal the final product. Following the cooling period, the exciting phase of unveiling the end result begins. The hardened metal nestled inside the sand mold is ready to see the light of day. And the first step to accomplish that is to break the mold. But don't be too hasty. This process requires a gentle touch, so as not to damage the creation within. Using a hammer and chisel, we carefully chip away at the sand, little by little, until our cast metal object is finally exposed. But we're not done yet, because what we have now is a rough version of our final product. There's a bit of cleaning to do. You see, during the casting process, some sand might have adhered to the metal, so we need to brush off any residual sand and ensure that the surface is as clean as possible. This step might involve a wire brush or even an air compressor to blow off the stubborn particles. Once the cast is clean, we're ready to move on to finishing the product. This is where the real transformation happens. It's where the metal object begins to take on its final form. The process involves grinding down any excess metal, smoothing out rough edges, and polishing the surface. With the right tools and a bit of elbow grease, we can achieve a smooth and shiny finish. But perhaps you're aiming for an antique or rustic look. In that case, you might choose to leave some roughness intact. The beauty of sand casting is that it allows for such flexibility. You're the artist here, and the final appearance of your creation is entirely up to you. And there you have it. From a simple pile of sand and a bit of metal, we've crafted a tangible, solid object. This is the magic of sand casting. It's a process that might seem complex at first, but with practice and patience, it becomes an engaging and rewarding craft. With these steps, we have successfully created a metal object through sand casting. Sand casting, while a complex process, is fascinating and rewarding. Let's distill some of the key points we've discussed. Sand casting, a time-honored method of metal fabrication, is a process that involves several meticulous steps. It starts with pattern creation, where a model of the final object is made. This model is then used to create a mold in sand, which can be compacted by hand or machine. The next step is the creation of a gating system. This is a channel that guides the molten metal into the mold cavity. It's crucial to get this right because it directly impacts the quality of the final product. After the gating system is in place, the molten metal is poured into the mold. The heat of the metal causes the sand mold to harden around it, capturing all the intricate details of the pattern. Once the metal has cooled and solidified, the sand mold is broken away, revealing the newly formed metal object. It's a process that requires patience and precision, but the results are truly impressive. From engine parts to decorative items, sand casting plays a pivotal role in creating a wide range of metal objects that we use every day. The next time you hold a metal object, remember the intricate process of sand casting that made it possible. The world of sand casting is a realm of art, science, and craftsmanship. We've delved into the intricate process, from understanding what sand casting is to breaking down its step-by-step procedure. We've seen how this ancient method breathes life into metal, transforming it into objects of utility and beauty. But this is just the surface. Sand casting holds a wealth of knowledge waiting to be tapped. The subtleties of the craft, the different types of sand used, the variations in techniques across cultures and centuries, these are all facets that are worth exploring. So if you found this fascinating, don't stop here. Continue to learn, to experiment, and to create. Dive deeper into the world of sand casting. Take this not as the end, but as the beginning of your own journey in this fascinating craft. Thank you for joining us on this journey through the process of sand casting. Stay curious and keep exploring.